Jamie McIntyre here. We're going live with the AustralianNationalReview.com urgent update. Some of you may have just seen the video that is circulating on social media. Dictator Dan Andrews, Victorian Premier, has completely lost the plot, as have the Victorian Police. Have completely lost the plot. I will post the video of a pregnant mother being arrested in her own home in front of her family and her children an hour before she's meant to go and have an ultrasound, where the Victorian Police are arresting her. Are you ready for this? Are arresting her because she made a Facebook post. A Facebook post talking about the protests, Freedom Rally protests around Australia this weekend, happening September 5th, this Saturday. This is unbelievable. This is communist China or worse now is occurring in Australia. Yes, it's correct. They've had a search warrant. They presented her the search warrant. I'll show you the video. You'll see it if you haven't seen it already. Breaking news around Australia right now. You won't hear much about this on the mainstream media, but she has been arrested, put in handcuffs, taken into custody, a pregnant mother in front of her husband and her family in her own home for nothing more than making a Facebook post. Dan Andrews clearly, folks, if you haven't woken up yet, if you think Melbourne is going to be let out of these lockdowns, he's pushed for 18 months extension of emergency power. They plan to lock you down indefinitely forever. Governments, once they have taken power, taken your liberties and your rights, they've never throughout history ever given those powers back without a civil war. Does that make sense? Now, I'm not here suggesting Australia's going to end up in civil war. Victoria definitely may. The Eureka Stockade will pale in comparison to what you may have to do to save what's left of Victoria. Now, what we're looking at here is Dictator Dan Andrews clearly is not taking instructions from the Prime Minister of Australia. Our Prime Minister of Australia seems very impotent, seems to have no authority. And Bill Gates, I believe, worked this out some time ago, and that's why they're using WHO, the World Health Organization, under the guise of a fake pandemic. Now, let's not argue about this. The pandemic is fake. Yes, the virus may be real, but the pandemic is clearly falsified. It's clearly fake. It doesn't even qualify as a pandemic under 2010 definitions. And have you seen even this week, the CDC has had to admit only 6% of the deaths in the US, in fact, from COVID. In Italy, it came out a long time ago, and only 12% of the deaths, which now has been new studies showing as little as 1.2% of the deaths. The virus is real, yes, folks, but the pandemic is fake. It's a falsified, politicized agenda. It has nothing about the virus. More people die of the flu. And let's face it, go and look in the medical journals. Guess what? Coronaviruses are a common cold. What are we arguing about? Like, yes, it might be a real virus, and yes, it's deadly for those people already dying, but so is anything is deadly for anyone that's already sick and dying. So, wow, even those people they claimed even the 6% is disputable. It could even be less than that. So regardless of that, we have our Dan Andrews. Clearly he's taking instructions from the Communist Party he's in bed with. Dictator, the president of the Chinese Communist regime, George Soros and fellow crazies overseas that are behind this global conspiracy. And yes, it is a conspiracy. It's just no longer a theory. They've had these plans for some time. So this is an urgent plea to fellow Australians. If you've got friends that aren't awake yet and still think you're going to die of this virus, it's not about this. Victorian Police, I have heard, are planning to violently attack and assault protesters in Victoria this weekend. My message is to fellow Australians. I say to Australians in other capital cities around the country, yes, show up on Freedom Day this Saturday and legally protest peacefully. I'm advising Victorians, our Melbourneites, and even though you want to protest this Saturday, my clear advice is don't. I'm not saying cancel the Freedom Day in Victoria this Saturday. I'm saying reschedule it. I'm saying send a clear message to Dan Andrews. We will reschedule in Melbourne. The rest of the country will protest peacefully, illegally, around the country on this Saturday on behalf of fellow Victorians that are under martial law, under a police state for no scientific basis, not from a health crisis. from a fake pandemic. And I put up $1 million to prove for anyone to show independent evidence in Australia that the COVID deaths aren't inflated. No one's taken up that challenge. No politician, no media representative in Australia, because of course now we know they would have lost their $1 million. It's now been proven. The deaths have been inflated globally, and I'm still stating they are in Australia, and no one will take up that bet. My challenge to the people is this: Victorians, I am recommending to delay the protest in Melbourne this Saturday. The rest of the country, protest this Saturday legally and peacefully if you can, to support fellow Victorians, but delay the Melbourne protests in Victoria for 2 weeks. Send a clear message to Dan Andrews. Dan Andrews, you have 2 weeks from this Saturday, September 5th, to end these ludicrous, deadly, dangerous, unnecessary lockdowns and resign. You have 2 weeks to do this. Otherwise, Victorians, you would take off your mask and you will, as a group of people, say, we're ending the lockdown September 19th. Give Dan Andrews 2 weeks to show an exit from this and to resign or else. I advise against protesting this Saturday in Melbourne. I recommend that if you can do it legally and peacefully in other states, to go ahead and support Victorians, because you're playing into the hands of Dan Andrews. You must understand this, fellow Australians. And this is, once again, is no conspiracy theory. If you want conspiracy theories, please tune in to Channel 7 News, 6 p.m, Channel 9 News, ABC, CNN. You get all the conspiracy theories fed to you daily without evidence, and you don't even have to ask questions. So to be a conspiracy theorist, you must be someone that follows mainstream news religiously, doesn't ask questions, doesn't demand evidence. I ask questions, demand evidence, and so should you. Most of you followers for listening to me. So unfortunately, you don't qualify to be conspiracy theorists, nor are you believing conspiracy theories. This is proven. Go check out Dan Andrews' April Facebook posts. Dan Andrews highlighted that because there was a rush of gun sales and ammunition sales around Australia, that has been in recent months, and some months ago, because people have every right to be anxious. They no longer can trust their governments, because who the fuck is running Australia? Clearly not Prime Minister. He's impotent, has no say over the states. And the states, we know, especially these particular left-wing Labor premiers, are in bed with China. We know that. Senator Sam Dastyari, who I had a personal run in the Senate in 2015, and then A&R outed him for taking Chinese bribes and pushing the Chinese communist agenda in the Labor Party back then. And I'm not just saying this is one side of politics. It's infiltrated on both sides of politics, but one side more than others. They're in bed with China. What's this got to do with a virus? It's got everything to do with it, because it's not about a virus. So my point is, Dan Andrews at the same time said, check on his Facebook, that no more gun permits will be allowed for Victorians. So Victorians are left unarmed, unable to defend themselves against the police, which he armed in April. The police were given semi-assault, high-powered weapons in April this year. Why were the Victorian police giving semi-assault, high-powered weapons if this is not pre-planned? You're up against an enemy that is deadly. The Victorian police have shown, many Victorian police are good people that will defend and do their duty, but many of them clearly aren't. Power goes to the head. They already are assaulting innocent people in Victoria. They don't have a useless mask on, or they're just minding their own business. They're like 5 kilometers away from the house. It's absolutely pathetic. Australia is the worst lockdowns on the planet. Victoria's reputation is in shatters. Australia's reputation is going down the gurgler. Dan Andrews is going to jail. Let's face it. Victorians, vote now. Should Dan Andrews go to jail, we know where he's going, and Victorians will get to vote again. Remember Dan Andrews. The Victorian police are out of line. And here's a warning to the Victorian police once again. You will be recorded. You will be watched. And if you step out of line, you're going to jail too, if you're lucky. Traitors to this country commit treason may not be so lucky to even make it to jail. So Victorian police are armed and dangerous, and they wish to incite violence this Saturday. My recommendation is do not play their game in Melbourne. Delay the protest for 2 weeks. Give Dan Andrews 2 weeks to resign and to end these ludicrous lockdowns, or else. Otherwise, if you do it this weekend, they're wanting you to do that because he's delayed his announcement to Sunday, and he's going to use the excuse of protesters this Saturday is why he has to extend his lockdowns. Do not give him that opportunity. I know you put a lot of effort into organising this. My concern is there will be violence provoked by paid-for antagonists put in amongst the protesters, funded by the people that are behind these communist takeover, and Dan Andrews, and he has armed the Victorian Police with high-powered semi-assault weapons, and they will not hesitate. You've seen what they're doing now. They don't care what the law is. You're operating under emergency health powers, which give them the right to do whatever they want. They think they do. It's dangerous. Australians, I don't know how you feel about being de-armed, not able to defend yourself against a police state where they are arming the police, and don't doubt they're not doing it around in other states right now with effectively machine guns against innocent Australians. Our government is no longer under our control, folks. You must understand that. The federal government is impotent to do anything. The state governments lost the plot. Don't think they won't try it in Queensland as well. But Dan Andrews, a nasty piece of work. He has to go. But delay the protest. My recommendation in Victoria this Saturday, delay it for 2 weeks. Give Dan Andrews a clear notice that we will not tolerate violence by the police. We will not tolerate him as Premier of any of our states, particularly Victoria, any longer than 2 weeks. And these excessive, unnecessary lockdowns, not based on science, based on a falsified fake pandemic, must end, and he must disclose who is he taking orders from. And the rest of the country, support in peaceful protests, observing social distancing, observing the laws. If you can do it legally, peacefully, and observing the laws around the country, please protest this Saturday and Freedom Day and support the fellow Victorians. My recommendation, as I said to Victoria, delay yours for 2 weeks and give a strong message to Dan Andrews. He's to leave. He's to resign while he has the chance. Talk to you soon.